Brilliant. And welcome everybody to the SESK Helpdesk. We are going to talk about EU funds for social services through an EU funded project. My name is Chris Gordon. I'm CEO of the Irish Social Enterprise Network and delighted to be joined by Baptiste and Freddie. We're also joined by our colleagues here in Ireland, Emma, Gemma and Siobhan. We are going to have a whole discussion on EU funds and the possibilities of getting a project off the ground in Ireland. But to start off, we are going to go over SESK Helpdesk. It's a project that has been going for 2 years, and we were glad to be a part of it. And some of our members obviously were able to attend. As part of this, we are going to discuss the overview of the project, why it came about, and next steps, maybe some access to future events. If you're in Ireland and you're looking for funds for your social enterprise or your social service, here is a way to be able to get information on that. Of course, it's all backed up by our colleagues here in Ireland. So hopefully we will be able to ask them and listen to them about some of the support, or maybe things that are coming up or of interest, or maybe access to some things that social enterprise, social services may want to find out about. So without further ado, I'm going to ask Baptiste Vasseur from ENSIE and Freddie Houston from EASPD to be able to talk us through SESK Helpdesk and maybe give us some overview and help and support, and maybe where we can find all the money. Baptiste, where is all the money? We will hand over to you if you want to be able to share your screen.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. I will share my screen. So, good morning, everyone, for this first day after Easter at 10 a.m. Indeed, thanks a lot for being here. I'm very pleased to have the opportunity to present the outcomes of this Helpdesk project and to create, open the doors, let's say, for a discussion, constructive discussion about how to access EU funds, how to access money, as you said, Chris. This presentation, I will try to make it quite short, maximum 30 minutes, to really go briefly on each of the deliverables. But you can imagine then that after a 2 years project, 30 minutes is quite short. So all this presentation will target an incentive, and we try to invite you to go deeper and to dive a little bit on the deliverables and on all the documents that I'm about to present. These documents are a policy guidance on how to access EU funds, a facilitation toolkit for managing authorities to best implement ESF Plus and ERDF, a booklet of promising practices, and I am really glad that Freddie Jusien will also give a short presentation, a focus on the MOOC, which is probably the most practical tool that social services will be able to use in the next months and years to ease their access to EU funds. So to be clear, this presentation is not a training on project management. It's not a training on project application. It's just a short presentation on the outcomes of the project. And the objective is to make it as concise and adapted for you, and also to open the discussions. So why the Helpdesk? There is a growing need for care and support since several years. And at the same time, it's not it's not a spoiler alert. It's not a surprise. We know, and it's assessed and on evidence-based data that the social services are facing an increasing and a chronic underfunding. They are facing staff shortages, challenges in transitioning to community-based and person-centered form of services. So that's really the challenges that the Helpdesk try to tackle. It's what's important to have in mind there is it's a highly political project. We want it not only to be practical, but we want it to have a political positive effect. That will help you to understand the design of the documents we are about to present now. It's a 2-year project funded by the European Commission, and it targets both managing authorities and social services, and it has a special focus on ESF Plus and ERDF. The implementation was notably focusing on 10 countries that are representing the best, the diversity of Europe, because we know that the needs that I have before mentioned in global terms are in fact really, really different from countries to countries. So the idea was also to gather some ground-based feedbacks from very diverse ecosystems and contexts. How did we do that? We tried to follow 2 types of methodology. First, working on evidence gathering through surveys, national events. Maybe some of you were already there 2 years ago for the national event in Ireland. Also, we did some desk research. And now we are in the phase of the knowledge sharing with the dissemination of the MOOC, with the accessibilization and the dissemination of the website. And during 2 years, a platform was giving and providing direct access for any social service provider wanting to access to EU funds and facing some obstacles or questions. This platform was granting a direct access to experts on EU funds who were responding to the specific question of these social service providers. Just for you to know, this platform will be closed in a few weeks now, so it's in the past, but there is some promising perspectives that we will discuss probably a little bit after my presentation. And here again, you see the 3 other deliverables that I'm about to present that were drafted on the basis of the national events, the surveys, and the desk research through cross-sectoral and thematic workshops. What happened? What did we learn during our national event in Ireland? So the feedback were clearly clear and pretty in line with the feedbacks we were receiving from other countries. Complexity of the funds, lack of dedicated personnel, especially for small and medium-sized entities, accessibility issues for smaller organizations, and burden for reporting, which is in line with a broader burden on administrative requirements. The technical guidance, I will enter in the technical guidance first. So it's focusing on 5 sectors of social service provision: childcare, person with disabilities, elderly care, housing and homelessness, and work integration. I was personally involved on the work integration section. And it contains practical tools and steps for managing authorities and social services, policy recommendations, and sectoral diagnostic. So one of these practical tools is the practical roadmap for social services. It's a 10-step roadmap that gives the guidelines for social services to conduct and to develop properly and implement properly a ESF Plus project, for example, through needs assessment, through the implementation of a user-centered approach, through the use of evidence-based practices, through the development of partnerships, through capacity building and training for staff, through the implementation of quality assurance programs, ensuring that services are accessible for the beneficiaries, that there is an innovative use of technologies, and a provision of information and education, and also a provision of complaint and feedback mechanism. These could be considered as auto-evaluation tool to assess how we could check, how we could validate these different criteria of quality, if I may say. What can we also bring from the sectoral diagnostic, from the work integration sectoral workshops, you will see that they are echoing a lot with what has been raised during the event in Ireland. So we see that WISEs are having some difficulties to to access to ESF Plus because of the bureaucracy and the technical requirements. We have also flagged that there is a lack of accessibility for small entities, and at the same time a lack of offer for WISEs that are already developed and that are looking at duplicating their activity, scaling up their activity. We have also assessed a strong desire to be more involved within monitoring committees and to see more implementation of partnership practices in line with the partnership principles. And also in some countries, the legal forms are real blockers for WISEs to access to EU funds. These are the four main challenges that I decided to present here, but in total there are 12. I didn't want to show them all because we won't have time, but please go to the document and see all of them. There is a practical roadmap for managing authorities around 10 steps that are also in line with the principles that we drafted for social services, more partnership and stakeholders engagement, focus on quality, focus on innovation and collaboration, capacity building and training, partnership principles. So really, we see that the needs and challenges are really working in parallel for both actors. And there is a need and a desire of more synergies and more cooperation between these two stakeholders. Also, we drafted let's say, a practical roadmap to foster social innovation through ESF Plus and ERDF. And once again, it's really in line with what I've been presented as a roadmap for managing authorities, with research and evaluation support, more engaging stakeholders, flexibility in the allocation of the funds, and more innovation in the design of the funds, capacity building, promoting learning networks, innovation partnerships, adaptive management approach, technology integration, demonstration projects, innovation competitions to foster creativity and recognition and visibility. What I personally did for the funds that I am involved in is I was also using these criteria as an evaluation tool, let's say, to give some concrete feedback to the managing authorities and to the project officers I was in contact with, to say qualitatively how I assessed the implementation and the design of the fund through these 12 criteria. The other tool is the facilitation toolkit. So again, I won't go really deep in this toolkit, as the first target is the managing authorities. But what can be interesting for social entrepreneurs, for social service providers, is that it contains several documents that are really, really practical when it's the moment of implementing the project. For example, it contains, for the fourth phase of project implementation, which is quality and communication, a dissemination plan that is ready to be used directly, that can be downloaded. About project budgets, we've been advocating through this tool a lot for simplified cost options. So it might be interesting for any project holder or project applicants to go through this part of the document to better understand what they are, simplified cost options, and what are the advantages and disadvantages. Sorry. And just to tackle a little bit the question of the administrative burden for the project application and for the project reporting phase and project evaluation phase, I want to highlight that we decided to advocate for a two-step evaluation process that really helps for both managing authorities and social services to reduce the administrative burden related to the management of all the applications, and also to improve the accessibility of the funds through lighter application processes, let's say. Yes, and about monitoring and sustainability, we have also drafted a map of success factors and pathways to project sustainability that are really good food for thought for any project holder who is planning and drafting his sustainability strategy. Here you will find the most common success factors to do so. So I really advise also all the participants to throw an eye on it. And there is another aspect that I would like to highlight that is really useful, that was already useful for me. It's about project reporting. I know that it's a really frustrating phase for any project holder. We have, and in the end, in the beginning, it was to spot the structural challenges and obstacles in the project reporting phase, project reporting phase for social service providers. We drafted a list of common issues and list of common mistakes that I really advise anyone to look at before the reporting of their projects, because they might show you the probable and expected challenges that you will face during the reporting phase. So these are practical tools that are really usable for social service providers. The booklet of promising practices also is for the use of managing authorities, but it's a really good tool to travel a little bit around Europe about like cross-sectoral and transversal topics, and see how from countries to countries they found some solutions to tackle, to improve access to EU funds, to improve the relationship with managing authorities, to hold some successful project teams management, to tackle some project difficulties, to draft a sustainability strategy that is qualitative, and to simplify the administrative requirements. And you will see recommendations from successful organizations that are really good, let's say, content for inspiration to replicate existing good practices. Because one of the best conclusions that we had after all the workshops is solutions are already existing, are already implemented. Maybe one of the solutions is to improve their visibility and replicability. I'm jumping to the next slide. So to conclude, what could you do? What should you do with these tools, with these documents? I consider that first of all, they are really, really good documents for advocacy purposes, because they show what is doable in terms of implementation of EU funds, and they are drafted on the basis of several workshops and evidence-based research. So they are really liable documentation, let's say. They are also very good deliverables and tools for training and capacity building, as they are providing a very broad overview on everything more or less that relates to project implementation and project management. And also it's a good experience to put ourselves in the shoes of the managing authorities as social service providers, to understand what are the blockers, challenges, and objectives. We know that there are also a lot put into several understandable constraints that are related to accountability and transparency, and we also have to have that in mind to go into qualitative partnerships. What could we do, and what could you do to go a little bit deeper on the topic? There was a final report drafted by the group of high-level group of the future of cohesion policy. This is just a consultative document, but it has been mandated by the European Commission, and there is really good reasons to believe that it will shape the future lines, political lines of cohesion policies. We are drafting an opinion about this report, so I will also invite you to give it an eye, to throw an eye on it, and maybe react. Don't hesitate to write me your reaction about our opinion on this report. And also we created a LinkedIn group to also pursue with this great dynamic and with our cooperation still on this question of maximizing the efficiency of ESF Plus and ERDF for social services. So in this LinkedIn group, we will share opinions, documents, tools, and so on. And we would be more than happy to see you there. Who are we? We are ENSIE. We are involved in several expert groups related to this question, the ECOP, European Community of Practice and Partnerships, the CPR Partners Group, and the Fit for Future expert groups, and the Helpdesk. Why I am mentioning that, it's not to show off, it's just to say also that we are available to take your feedbacks. In fact, we would be enriched by your challenges and feedback, and we would be more than happy to bring them on the table of EU policymakers and make them a real political discussion. So please don't hesitate to contact us on the topic. We have the possibility to open the discussion with policymakers. Because we are ENSIE, the European Network of Social Integration Enterprises. We established in 2001, and we gathered 31 national, regional, and local networks in 21 countries across the EU, Azerbaijan, Moldova, Serbia, and Ukraine. And I just finished my presentation in 20 minutes, so it leaves 10 minutes to Freddy to give a focus on the MOOC. Thank you very much for your attention. Freddy, if you want to take the floor.
Thank you, Baptiste, for giving me the floor and for this brilliant presentation of the project as well. I think now you understand more the purpose of the project, the different deliverables, and please, if you have some question, ask me or ask Baptiste. So thank you also, Chris, for the organization of the event. It's a great opportunity to speak about the access to EU funds, and especially in this time. So as Baptiste recalled, we have now a new report on the future of the cohesion policy. We will have in a few weeks also a conference on the European Pillar of Social Rights, where the high-level persons in the European Union will address also the access to EU funds. So thank you very much, all of you. I'm Freddy Jussien. I'm junior policy and project officer at EASPD. So EASPD is the European Association of Service Providers for People with Disabilities, and we are coordinator of the project. And I myself followed the development of the MOOC and the support platform of the Helpdesk, and as well as the toolkit. So happy to be there. Sorry for my English. I spent my Easter holiday in Germany, and English was not the main language. So if I do some mistakes, so please be kind with me. And yeah, so this is the first day after Easter holidays. So now I will share my screen. So please let me know if you can see it, and I can continue. Is it okay? Can you see my screen now or? No? Okay. Now maybe.
Yes.
Yes, okay, perfect. So the MOOC. As Baptiste explained at the beginning, the policy guidance and the toolkit are really targeted managing authorities. So the goal for you is to advocate with these tools, to push your managing authorities to make EU funds more accessible and make EU funds targeting more effective intervention in the field of the social services. The MOOC is a tool for you to train your staff, for you to increase your knowledge about EU funds. Why? It's because we identified some challenges, some barriers in accessing EU funds. So here you have two graphics that was part of our report that we developed at the beginning of the project. So the first one, when we ask social services in Europe to assess their level of awareness about existing EU funds opportunity, you can see that 35% of the responders had limited knowledge about accessing EU funds. And for us, it's a really big challenge because, as Baptiste recalled, we have many challenges in our sectors, and knowing about the opportunities to find the money to have an answer to the problems, it's really, really crucial. You have also a second graphic that shows that social services need to train their staff, need to increase their knowledge about accessing EU funds, implementing EU-funded projects, and that's why we developed the MOOC. So we had different challenges when we developed the MOOC. So the goal of the MOOC was to structure and to simplify information about EU funds. You will see the MOOC, I will show you in few minutes, really propose an overview of, sorry, I'm going to stop my notification on Teams so it doesn't disturb the presentation. And then going back.
We can't see that though, Freddie. It's okay.
You can't see that?
Yes,
Okay.
it's not appearing. Don't worry.
Okay. Sorry. So the goal was really to structure and simplify information. You will see in the MOOC, the language that we use is really simple. We don't recall the technical words that use the EU regulation, etc. So that makes the tool really easy for you to use in your everyday life in managing a EU project and accessing EU funds. So the MOOC is really targeting top and middle managers in social services and with a level of experience with EU funds, which is non or occasional. I know it's not ideal. It's not, you can't really find all the responses in the MOOC, but it's a good introduction to EU funds and how to implement EU-funded project. Why we decided this approach is I know that in Ireland you have some organizations, some structure like Access Europe that does a great job for you in accessing EU funds, but of course in all the EU countries it's not the same case, especially in the country in the east part of Europe. These countries present a lot of more challenges in accessing EU funds. So that's why we decided to have this approach that is universal and that everyone can use. So just quickly to recall the process on how we created the MOOC. So we developed the first document, which was a blueprint. Then we piloted it online and in 5 countries. So Belgium, Sweden, Italy, and Czech Republic, and Spain. And now we have the final result. Again, this final result is a universal document which have to be adapted to your national context. So what you can do is that a national expert can use this tool, this MOOC, as a material in a general training on EU funds, for example, and use also the other deliverables that we developed in the project as well, like, for example, the country sheets, so that we have also on our website. So the country sheets propose a really structured presentation of how EU funds work in Ireland, for example. So you will be able to see here the partnership agreement, the different managing authorities that you have to reach out to find your calls, etc., etc. So this is a universal MOOC that have to be adapted, and you have with the help desk some tools to adapt the MOOC. So now stop speaking around the topic, and let's go to the MOOC platform directly. Which is here. So, yeah. So can you see the MOOC platform
We're still
now?
sharing the presentation, Freddie. You might need to stop it and then reshare.
Okay. Sorry, I'm not a professional of Zoom. So here, share.
Brilliant. That's it.
That's it? Okay, okay. So here you have a general presentation of the MOOC. Just to stress this tool because it's useful considering that we might have also people with disabilities using the MOOC. We have here an accessibility tool which is able to change the color of the text, etc. So for people with vision impairment. So it makes it easy for them to use the MOOC. So going back to the original version, I'm going to show you now what are the modules of the MOOC. So the idea was really for you to have some guidance when you implement the EU funds to find relevant information about where you are and how it's easier to access to EU funds. So for example, we have some module that we call the lifetime of a project. So from identifying needs and EU issues for your project, find the right call for proposal for the project, then write a proposal, implement the project, how to communicate with managing authorities, for example, and conclude the project with the reports and the audit, for example. Then the seventh module is about the lesson learned. So this is about the report that we developed at the beginning of the project. We have also a section that we call the typical documents of projects. So which document is used and what are their definition. Then we have a Q&A section to test your knowledge and some promising practices and stories in implementing EU funds. So in each section, I'm going, for example, to find your call for proposal. So recommended process. So as you can see, this is a universal MOOC. So you will not find here where to find the right call for proposal because in each country it's different. What we propose here, it's a simple process for you here to implement in your organization to gather information about EU funds, identify the right calls for proposal, network with the managing authorities, consult national and regional authorities to find the right calls for proposal. So these are really practical steps, really simple, really easy to implement that you can use in your organization to find the right calls for proposal. Same for master the proposal. I just realized that I don't have many time left. So here you have the structure. Just to show you another point, for each section, for each module, you have a presentation videos at the beginning. that recall you the main issues of the topic and a summary video. So you will be able to see it, so to have a simple overview of the modules. And it's a good also videos to share, as these are really, really short and really impactful, let's say. So I think that's it from my side. I'm not going to, so as Baptiste recalled, it's not a course on how to access to EU funds, but it's just to present you here the platform, how to use it. If you have some question on practical question on how to use it, please feel free to ask them to me. Just to recall, because it's really important, it's universal and it has to be adapted with the needs of your countries and the needs of your organization and your target audience. So that's it from my side.
Brilliant. Thank you, Freddie. And I think we're all just going to jump onto the MOOC and learn, because it is a good resource. And it is important because these are obviously collected facts and information from social services, social enterprises all across Europe. Ireland obviously contributed a little bit. And as a result of that, this MOOC has happened, and we're delighted that it exists and it's available to all. Of course, the link for all of this is EU funds for social.eu. So you can access that at any stage, and the MOOC is available and free, as well as all of the other things, including the report that Baptiste and Freddie touched upon through all of this. Of course, we do have services in Ireland that contribute to the promotion of EU funds. One of those organizations has funded and channeled funding through many mechanisms from European level down through Ireland out to community and voluntary services for a good number of years. One of those organizations is Pobal. We're delighted that today Siobhan Cafferty has joined us, only for a few minutes, as well as our speakers from Leargas and Access Europe, to talk about some of the services or some of the things that are happening in Ireland at the moment. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Siobhan Cafferty. And Siobhan, I don't know if you're going to be using some of the services that the MOOC has provided as well, but I'm sure we'll all be on it. But I'm going to leave the floor to you.
Thanks very much, Chris and Baptiste and Freddie. I feel like you've given me a belated Easter gift with your presentations and the information that you provided. I will most definitely be jumping on. So yes, I've got a challenge of 10 minutes and I am going to share my screen and take you through what I do and what Pobal does in this space. Can you all see that?
We can indeed. If you want to click share screen, that'd be great. That's it. Brilliant.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. So I can't see any of you, which is always the challenge of presenting on Zoom on my end anyway. So if there's any questions, look, we can take some at the end. So as Chris mentioned, my name is Siobhan Cafferty and I work for an organization called Pobal. My role at the moment is funder liaison and business delivery manager. So effectively what Pobal does is we work on behalf of government in conjunction with communities and local agencies to support social inclusion and local and community development right across the island of Ireland. At the moment, we are focusing on 41 national programmes. We are working and liaising with 7 government departments, and last year we allocated in excess of €1 billion to those organisations. And what's really great about Pobal is the fact that we kind of share that lessons learned, the funding, the supports to a whole range of different areas, as you can see there. I work in the social inclusion, social enterprise and social innovation space. The vast majority of the staff within Pobal are in the childcare and education piece. And as I said, as you can see there, we do a lot around the peace and reconciliation piece. And as Chris mentioned, we provide both national and European funding across a number of these platforms. So the one that I'm working on at the moment is very much based on what Baptiste and Freddie have been presenting on. So I don't feel like I need to go down through all of these slides with you because it's speaking to the converted. But we are leading out with the Department of Rural and Community Development on a new ESF Plus Social Innovation Fund. And you can see there on the screen, obviously this is part of an EASPD programme that's operating within Ireland from 2021 to 2027. quite a significant investment coming into the country, which is always of major benefit to national organisations and local community, local groups and social enterprises, but also from my point of view, coming from an operational background within the social enterprise space, it's the impact that these programs can have on those individuals that are most marginalised, and that's the real key piece for me. So again, what does this new ESF Plus social innovation piece look like? Obviously, a co-finance program. The EU allocation for this fund in particular is 95%, with a national contribution of 5%, which is really quite a significant investment coming from Europe. There is 3 different kind of programs that are being funded under this, as you can see, totaling just under 24 million. Sports Ireland programme, Rural and Community Development Achieve Together programme, which Pobal has also supported the department on. And as I mentioned, the one that I'm supporting the department with, as well as other colleagues within Pobal, is the Social Innovation for Inclusion, and that's just 10 million, just under a 10 million euro fund. So again, I suppose one of the things, and preaching to the converted, like what are we looking to try and achieve? What are we hoping to get from this program? Obviously social innovation is about, that activity that is social, both as to its ends and its means, and in particular an activity which relates to the development and implementation of new ideas, of new ways of doing things, of bringing key partners together, those social innovation actors, to be able to make sure that any of those social issues and challenges that we've been facing in society here, that we're really starting to have a look at doing things differently. I think that's what's something the ESF Plus funds do incredibly well. The objective that we're particularly addressing is the fostering active inclusion with the view to promoting equal opportunities, non-discrimination and active participation, and improving employability, in particular for disadvantaged groups. So hearing you speak about work integration social enterprises, Baptiste, is of particular importance to me and interest. It is an area that I've been working in now for a decade, and just see the massive benefit of it. So we are now just at the beginning of phase 1. We actually haven't opened that funding round as of yet. We are aiming to have that open by the end of this month or into early May. And phase 1 is looking at to support the development of a social inclusion hub, which will provide direct support to those who receive funding under phase 2. And phase 2 we're aiming to have up and ready for application now in the beginning of 2025. But the idea is, if I just move swiftly on, I'm just going to move through that real quickly because I'm conscious of time. And again, you can have these slides then afterwards. If we look, one of the things obviously is the social innovation match. That's something that you can start to have a look at and see as an additional tool to what you guys have just provided. Where are those innovation pieces, who's doing what, and that is a European-wide repository there, so you can have access to that one then as well. So if we, as I said, if I just focus on what phase 1 is looking like for the short time that I have, 2.8 million is available to create a national support network. And thankfully, in looking at all of the various different roadmaps that Baptiste in particular outlined, they're all of the roadmaps that we are following, or more importantly, that the managing authority is doing its best to follow. So with the creation of the Social Innovation Hub, I should just say that is just a working title at the moment until the actual successful entity is contracted. It is designed to be that one-stop shop, that coordination of supports to the social services or social enterprises right around the country who are trying their best to do something in that social innovation space. It is about assessing needs and being responsive to those needs, because not a one-size-fits-all approach does not work for all of the social enterprises, and in particular social innovation spaces. That social broker piece, that mentoring, that access to local, regional and international networks, and absolutely the supports and the resources that you guys have provided here now today will be a part of that. Awareness raising, what does social innovation mean? What does that mean at local, national and international level? The capacity building piece, and again, something that was very much across both Baptiste's and Freddie's presentation. We have the social enterprise space is very much a time poor sector, underfunded, and people really pulling out all the stops to ensure that the social mission of their enterprises is met. So how do we support capacity building within that space that meets the needs of all of those providers? And what does the managing authorities or implementing bodies need to do in order to make sure that that is meeting the needs of those entities? And more importantly, how do we measure that social impact? How do we know that this is working? So again, one of the things that came up as part of your piece, Baptiste, was around that kind of partnership working. So one of the things that the Department of Rural and Community Development will be very open to is consortium bids with the lead agency and partial delivery agents that take on that rural and urban need, that have a look at the particular development stage of the entities for which they will be supporting within phase 2. What is the readiness like to take up that funding piece? And where is the policy alignment? So if they're addressing something that is a recognized need, a social challenge or need within an area, and then they're creating a social innovation response to that, where is the policy alignment as well? And then the bottom there's the cascade of all of those various different bits and pieces that social innovation hub, the department believe will need to have a look at delivering both at a national and local level to ensure that the social innovation measures that the phase 2 entities put out or put in their application for, that they're given the best shot possible at achieving that, and more importantly, not just achieving it, potentially then also looking at scaling up. So Pobal, from our point of view, what we will be doing is we will be having a look at, we will be leading out on the contract and case management process throughout the whole of phase 1 and phase 2. We'll have an oversight and impact measurement role. We work on behalf of the department, who then in turn report to the managing authority, which in this case is the Department of Further and Higher Education. One of the things around this fund, and I'll probably stop then after this one, because I'm sure my time is up, is that this fund runs until the end of 2027. So the Social Innovation Hub will need to have a look at what that exit strategy might look like. We'd love to be able to say that there is continuation funding. At this stage, that's not clear. So an exit strategy or legacy creation piece will be needed as well. So we'll be looking at that and capturing the learning as you have done through the various different tools that you've highlighted, in particular, Freddie will be away. So that's me, that's my details. Apologies for the short whistle stop tour, but Chris gave me 10 minutes as he did for others. So my apologies.
It's all just a teaser, Siobhan. If anybody wants to find out more, they will be able to access pobal.ie, and it just highlights the connection between the European funding and what the SESK Helpdesk is trying to undertake, which is to make it broken down and to make it less complicated. What Pobal are trying to implement through this project is to make sure that everybody has a role and knows exactly what it is, so it can be as effective as possible. So it is just good to see that things are to align, and deeply appreciate you taking us through that. Thank you so much, Siobhan. I appreciate it. Of course,
thank you.
We will be able to move on. I am delighted to welcome from Access Europe and the Wheel, Emma Murtaugh, who has been already mentioned by Baptiste and Freddie as being best case study for how these things should be implemented. I know that you've done so much work already on connecting community and voluntary sector organizations with European funding, Emma, and that will continue. But to give us a slight overview, to cap you at 10 minutes like everyone else, unfortunately, and give a teaser again, I'm going to hand over. So without further ado, Emma Murtaugh.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Chris. That's a lovely introduction, as always. Can everybody see my screen there? Give me a thumbs up if it's okay. Yep. Great stuff. Okay, well, look, Chris already introduced me there. My name is Emma Murtaugh. I am the Senior European Programmes Manager at The Wheel, which is Ireland's National Association for Community, Charity and Social Enterprise Organisations. So that's, I suppose, the organisation that I come from. But we also have a number of, I suppose, roles and programmes within The Wheel. So that's mainly what I'm here to talk about today. So the first one that would be of interest is the National Contact Point for the Employment and Social Innovation Programme, the EASPD programme, as it's called. Although often not so easy, as we've learned about European programs over the last hour or whatever. This is our role is to support applications to this program and to disseminate information about it. This has been an experiment by the Commission. This EASPD has never had a national contact point before, and they have unfortunately decided not to continue that role through going forward after the initial 2-year contract. So, you know, throughout Europe, there will no longer be these national contact points for the Employment and Social Innovation Fund. They are establishing things like national competency centres that already exist and stuff, but the designated national contact point programme is not going to continue with it throughout Europe. However, luckily, in Ireland, we have a programme called Access Europe, which can go some way to kind of plugging that gap, which is something that, you know, this is an existing nationally funded service that the Wheel already provided long before we got the EASPD contact point role, and will continue to hopefully provide long afterwards. And it fills a lot of gaps. So basically, what is it? It's an EU funding support service for Irish civil society. So we call it Support and Capacity Building Programme, and it's about helping organisations to better access EU funds and kind of by extension of that engage in EU policy. So it's funded by the Department of Foreign Affairs, where there was this kind of recognition that a service like this was needed. So I suppose what the justification for it, or the rationale for it, was that EU funding, obviously, as we've heard about, although I feel like we're going to be scaring people there today, but you know, it can be complex and it requires an investment into capacity building within organizations so that they can engage. Many civil society organizations, which, you know, when we talk about civil society organizations, that includes things like charities, community groups, social enterprises in all of their diversity, whether it's arts or sport or health or anything you can imagine within that kind of community sector. But it can also include things like local authorities and state bodies and any kind of non-profit making entities, essentially. So it's a huge target group that we're talking about. But in general, I suppose the characteristic, particularly in many smaller civil society organizations, the kind of shared characteristic that they often have is that they are time poor. Again, and something else that has come up already today. You know, they tend to be time poor, they tend to be operating that kind of on shoestring budgets, they tend to be overstretched. And as a result, they just don't have the time or the budget perhaps to bring in consultants that can help them navigate, you know, kind of a whole new world of funding, with a lot of kind of obstacles and a steep learning curve involved. As a result, they're missing out on opportunities. And so Access Europe is about removing those barriers and helping groups to avail of these opportunities. So what are these opportunities? I think it's, you know, we've learned a bit here, but sometimes people focus more on the barriers than the opportunities. So I think it's worth saying, like, the value of participating in EU programs. It's an opportunity to learn and exchange with other countries, to access skills and expertise through partnership that you wouldn't have been able to access otherwise. It's about collaboration across sectors, across countries, across regions to share, solve problems. So that's a really beautiful part of EU funding, is that opportunity to tackle shared problems together, regardless of what kind of background your organization is. Obviously, there's the production of innovative outputs. We've heard about some of them already from SESK today, the MOOC and all the different things that you've produced, which can become excellent resources then for other organizations going forward. Obviously, you can get funding for the community voluntary sector in particular. It's interesting to see that you can get funding for volunteers, education opportunities, staff, education opportunities for staff, volunteers and service users, campaigning, events, awareness raising. And then obviously, you know, those are all the things you can do for it. But yes, another important aspect of why people consider it is that it's about diversifying their income and developing their organizational profile. So there's an extra kind of layer of opportunity in it there. And the barriers that we are seeing, and which Access Europe tried to tackle, and where definitely the SESK Helpdesk is trying to tackle, is about knowing which programme and where to get help. In many instances, we're very lucky, at least in Ireland, to have really excellent national contact points. and Access Europe is a national contact point itself, a kind of wraparound national contact point, but we work really closely with the specialists. So we'll hear from Gemma soon, and we work very closely with them and with other national contact points to help kind of signpost and direct and kind of work together to fill gaps. We also fill gaps where there is no national contact point. So for example, now that EASY contract, now the Commission is not going to be extending it throughout Europe, at least in Ireland, we can absorb some of that that gap, I suppose, and we can continue to. We might not be able to give it as much attention as we have given it, but we can continue to disseminate information. We can continue to signpost people and inform people. And there are other programs as well in Ireland that don't have national contact points. For example, one that's really important for our sector is and I would say for social service providers and things like that as well, is the SERVE program, Citizenship, Equality, Rights and Values. And currently there is no contact point for that in Ireland. So again, that's a big gap that we're filling in at the moment as best we can. So it's about knowing which program and where to get help, keeping up to date on news, deadlines, events. Finding EU partners is often a big obstacle that people talk about. Training on different aspects of applying for, and then also managing projects. It's not just about getting the money in. We try to ensure that people have a really positive experience in as much as possible. It's still work and it still can be a bit stressful, but we don't want people to find it too stressful. It's about kind of making sure that they're supported throughout the delivery of the project. And then we can also help with if organizations produce excellent outputs like those of the SESK project, we can help to disseminate them, and we can help to kind of spread the word a little bit. So we're kind of a central hub for all your EU funding needs, I suppose. And how we kind of do that, how we deliver on those priorities is we do a lot around information and guidance. So obviously it's not very efficient for every individual organization in Ireland to try and track the dozens of European websites and programs and calls. So we try to do that on behalf of the sector, and we condense it down into a handy kind of newsletter. We have this EU funding guide on our website. We have a database of open calls, and then we have a monthly newsletter. So really, the idea is to make it as easily scannable as possible, so that, if something grabs your attention, you can click in and find out more, but you're not wasting, hours and hours and hours every month trying to navigate what are often quite challenging websites. And full of jargon and full of, a lot of information. So we try to condense it down and make it easy. We also do an enormous amount of training. So we do at least 35 events a year, if not more, probably more than that. We reach at least 1,000 people, if not more, through our training every year. There's a little snapshot of our YouTube channel of different kind of trainings that we've done. But yeah, we run a series of different trainings, including like webinars, in-person events, networking events, partnership building. And then we do kind of deep dives with various national contact points. So, we did this Erasmus Plus one, which included Gemma, who you'll hear from soon, but also ones like from Horizon, the Mary Skłodowska Curie Actions, the Interreg programs. So it's a nice kind of opportunity for somebody to get an overall snapshot into the different types of funds that are out there, and then the kind of specific kind of transversal skills that you need for running European projects, so things like partnership and stuff like that. We also have a partner database where people can upload their profiles. Irish organizations can upload their profiles. So here's a kind of quick snapshot of some of those organizations. There's about 125 of them in our database. And then we then promote that out through Europe and kind of say, here are all these amazing Irish organizations. Reach out to them. We're supporting them. They're going to make great partners. So, we try to kind of build those relationships and get Irish organizations invited into partnerships as well. And we also do, obviously, there's an important role, I suppose, in the policy space, in representing the Irish civil society in EU spaces. So we're part of a number of networks. We've been able to influence things like the European Social Economy Action Plan, which was a really important kind of piece of policy for our sector. So we were able to kind of represent in that area, which again, if we hadn't got Access Europe and that kind of capacity in that program, we probably wouldn't be able to do. And just to say, I suppose, complementarity, I think it's really important to highlight this here. Like from everything I've described, Access Europe is trying to kind of be all things for everybody, which is quite a difficult role. We are very much like we're supporting all types of organizations, from very small to very large, for any imaginable topic that you can think of, you know. So it's quite a broad remit that we have. And we're very much kind of signposting and just general kind of wraparound support as much as possible. We always defer to the national contact points where there is one, as the absolute experts on their program, but we're there to kind of help people find the general home for their project and then, you know, signpost them in the right direction. So it's very welcome and really important that we have something like this, the EU funds for social services, and specifically focusing on things like ESF Plus and the ERDF. Like that's very welcome, because we can't do all of these things. We're only 3 people and stretched very thin. So I think it's really great. Like, the more support, the better, for groups to be able to access this type of funding. So these kind of more specialized services coming up that we can work with and we can signpost people to is a really, really welcome development. So I think I'm relatively on time. Did I go over? Oh, maybe by a minute. Sorry, Chris. But if you do want to find out anything more about Access Europe, it's accesseurope.ie, or you can email europe@wheel.ie. And obviously everything is free, everything is open access. So please do connect with us if you're interested in finding out more about EU funding. And that's it, I think.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, you know, and why people don't join it if they know that they could as well is beyond me. I mean, just reach out and ask and all the rest of it, and find out now. If you have an interest in a year or 2 years to find out about European stuff, now's the time to start, not necessarily, you know, just jumping in as and then. Just like ingratiate yourself to that, join up to the Access Europe newsletter and find out more, and it sort of drip feeds in, and it kind of gives you an opportunity. I don't know how you do it, Emma. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for that. Thank you. So we obviously have mentioned that there is a contact point for Ireland for Erasmus, and Leargas has been leading out that for a good number of years. Joining us here with Leargas, I'm delighted to welcome Gemma Lee, who will talk us through the supports that are being given for the Erasmus program.
Yes, Chris. I have to say, I don't know where to start at this point. I had a whole presentation planned, and now we've had all this really interesting information from so many people. It's just, it's fascinating. And I think I really want to echo what everyone has said so far, that there is so much out there in terms of EU funding, and it can be a bit complicated, you know, and it's all about just finding those signposts, and whether it's through Access Europe or whether it's through this fabulous new help desk, you know, whatever that is. I have to say, one thing that really surprised me when I started this job, my background is in the community sector, working in the youth work sector, working in the homelessness sector, is, you know, I'm now in a situation where I'm getting given out to by the European Commission for not giving away enough grants, you know, and you're kind of going, hang on, there's organizations out there who could be benefiting from this, who could be doing amazing work with this. But I absolutely understand that there are so many, you know, just barriers and challenges there to get to that point. What we do see absolutely is organizations that get involved once, they come back again. So once they've had that first project, they've got a taste for it, they've kind of got the bones of what needs to be done, and then they're coming back again and again and again, because that fear has been taken away. So absolutely do engage with the different services that are out there. And if Erasmus is the one for you, engage with me and my team. Let me stick up a few bits here, and I'll give you a little bit more of an insight into what we do and what we can offer in terms of the Erasmus Plus. And our comms team have just done a fabulous rebranding, and I'm loving all of our fancy new slides. So yeah, in terms of the Erasmus Plus program, it was relaunched in 2021 up until 2027 with a budget of over 26 billion across Europe. So it's a big project, and it will, you know, every so often, every few years, it gets revamped and retwigged. And I will always say to people, if you get opportunities for giving feedback, if you see a survey going around, if I ask you for feedback, give it, because that piece of advocacy really does actually make a difference. And we do see those changes being made from one year to the next based on that feedback and based on comments. So yeah, the current program is running to 2027. You'll see there's 30% of that is focused on partnership projects, and the rest is focused on what we call mobility projects. I think this is a word that doesn't really make sense in Ireland, because we think of like mobility scooters or something. But really what it means is people traveling around Europe, people visiting each other, learning from each other, working together. And that's what that's all about. So in Leargas, we work across 5 different sectors. Erasmus, I think, has always been famous for the higher education and the university students, but we don't actually look after that side of the programme in Leargas. That's the Higher Education Authority. So we look after these 5 sectors. My main role is in the adult education space. Adult education covers a really broad remit, including the kind of formal, non-formal and informal education. So we would see under that a lot of that informal piece of work with adults. So that might be community development, it might be in social inclusion type projects. I think people sometimes hear education and they get this mental image of a classroom and a teacher, and that's not really what adult education is. It can be as big and as broad as you want it to be. We also have the schools education sector, which includes the early years. So it's everything from early years through to primary and post-primary. We have the vocational education and training sector, which again, I think could be really interesting for a lot of the organizations here, because it's really that sort of initial education for the workplace, but also that continuous professional development. So whatever area your social enterprise, your social services are working on, there's always opportunities to upscale. There's always something more we can learn, and we can often learn that from our peers and our colleagues across Europe. So there's great opportunities there. There's also the youth sector, which covers both young people and also the youth workers and people that work with them. And then the sports sector is a new one that previously was always based through Brussels, and it always was decentralized projects. But in the last couple of years, we've now had some localized sport actions that come through us in Leargas as well. So we're really excited to have that. And again, I think the value of having something at a national level, I think applying for something through Brussels, especially for a new organization, it is a challenge, and it is a big step to send an application off into the ether. Whereas when you're applying through us in Leargas, you have that opportunity to pick up the phone and go, Gemma, am I on the right track here at all? Like, what's this all about? So I think it's really exciting that we now have that action here at a national level as well. I always stick up a slide on this in terms of these programme priorities, because I think it just helps people to see themselves in the space of Erasmus and see that, oh yeah, actually, I am working on these topics. These are something that I'm doing every day. So yes, maybe this is for me. So yeah, our programme priorities, we look at inclusion and diversity through all of our projects. We like to see everything that is being done as being inclusive, involving as many people as possible in the ways that they need to be supported. We like organizations to really embrace the digital transformation. I think, you know, COVID and the pandemic and all of that gave us all a good kick up the butt, that we're all pretty good at it now, but we can still keep learning. And certainly there's always people that have been left behind in that need to be supported to come along on that transformation journey. The environment and the fight against climate change, of course, is so important. And we have to be realistic in terms of, you know, well, how many people do we want flying around Europe? But at the same time, where is that balance of the benefit of sitting in a room together with people from different countries and learning from each other? So there's a kind of a balancing act to be done there. And then this last one, I think, especially this year with the elections and everything coming up, is just going to be so important in terms of how do we support people to actually engage in society, to engage in the various places where they can have their voices heard, and they can ask questions, and they can have those opportunities to take part in civic life. So they're kind of the overarching priorities. I figured the best way to tell you a little bit more about the project is to give you some examples, because I can be talking theoretically all day. So here's just 2 examples of 2 very different, one very, very big project and one very, very small project, just to give you a sense of the kinds of things that can be done under Erasmus+. And we don't have a huge amount from the social enterprise sector, I have to say, so we'll have to keep working on that one, Chris. But we do have an awful lot from the broader kind of social sector. So this was a really interesting one from Sophia Housing. This was basically, they're looking at this whole concept of housing first. How has this been implemented in different countries? How can we make it better? And how can we all learn from each other? So they have 4 partners. The Irish partner in Sophia Housing is leading it. They have a German, Finnish and Spanish partner. They're working together for over 3 years, and it's a big budget of 400,000. That is one of our biggest budget projects that we offer. So I think Erasmus Plus is probably a slightly smaller scale than some of the other European projects. This will be one of the biggest ones that we offer. And another little kind of perk that people don't always realize is with Erasmus Plus, there's no required co-financing. So that can be a big kind of help for a new organization who is stepping into European funding and hasn't done that before. These projects are done on a lump sum funding basis. So you pick the lump sum that you need and you build your budget within that. So they're incredibly flexible for organizations. Some organizations hate that and they'd love to be handed a budget and have it broken down for them, but it does give you a lot more creativity within it. So you'll see, yeah, Sophia, they're working on kind of researching how this is looking in the different countries. They're training up their staff. They're holding webinars to share that learning with other people. They're doing training. But they're also publishing. So they're publishing that research paper on what they've learned, and they're publishing a policy brief. So they're putting that advocacy piece there and that civic engagement as well, and going, hey, here's what we see happening around Europe, and here's what we'd love to see more of. And I think that's really valuable as well. So that's just a really interesting project that I wanted to share. And then the other one is kind of the other scale of it. And this is a small project. It's a one-year project with an €18,000 budget. And this came through from Coolmine Therapeutic Community, who work with people experiencing addiction. And this is on that mobility side of the project. So basically what they're doing is they're sending 8 of their staff members off to job shadow in other countries to learn about how to work with these really, really vulnerable groups of people in other countries. So in this context, this is an adult education project. In this context, the staff of Coolmine are informal educators. The service user of Coolmine would be informal learners. And that's how we kind of frame that. It's how they are learning to teach and learning to share these life skills with the service users that they work with. A really simple project, but it's going to be so impactful both on the staff team, but also on the service users that are there. And I think another interesting thing to mention about these projects is Coolmine, this was a once-off project that they applied for, but they have since gone on to do what's called accreditation, which means that they are now guaranteed funding from us, annual funding from us every single year to carry out these kind of projects. So that is an option for organizations as well, that they can go for this accredited opportunity. And it basically means you get that membership card, you're in the club, and you're guaranteed funding from us every year. So it's really about simplifying the process. It's really about allowing organizations to build this into their strategic planning, to build it into their long-term plans, and not just this once-off project funding, which I know is such a challenge for people as well. So I've put up my contact details here. I'll share all of this with Chris as well. Obviously, I work specifically on adult ed, but I'm always happy to put people in contact with the other sectors as well. And I just think for anyone who's thinking about it, whether it's Erasmus Plus or whether it's any of the other projects and funding that's available, give it a go. Pick up the phone, give me a shout, give Emma a shout. We'll signpost you to the right direction. If we're not the right person, we'll pass you on, because I just think it's such a shame to think that there is funding there that is available that organizations just haven't got either the time or the capacity to apply for. And we really would like to give them that support and help them get over the line as much as we can.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it, Gemma. And it is shocking how accessible it is for people to start on that journey. But I suppose there's this potential, or maybe this thought, that maybe it's a lot harder. Now, don't get me wrong, I know there's parts that are complicated, but if you don't start, then you'll never get on the journey. Obviously, Erasmus is a huge entry point for people starting on European funds as well, because it's 100% funded often and has a more reduced budget, and more people are involved at that level. So that's
absolutely, yeah, no, it is. And we have, obviously I shared that Sophia project, that's a large partnership project, but we have small scale partnership projects as well that start with budgets of 30 grand. You only need one partner. So if you've met one interesting organization that you think you could do something with together, there you go. That's your starting point, and I think we really are, we're there and we're available to have those chats with people and to give them that guidance and support that they need.
Absolutely. No, I really appreciate it. So at this point, if anybody has any questions, please do ask. We're going to wrap up in the next couple of minutes. Just, can I have any last little bits that anybody else has as well, just in thoughts from Emma, Siobhan and Gemma, if you could think maybe of any things that you have from Ireland, and obviously from Baptiste and Freddie, maybe you might have some thoughts as well. Simi, have you got any question there? No? Yes? No? Anybody?
Sorry, is that me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Sami, and I'm just watching these conversations and taking all the notes. I think the work that ISIN and the Will is doing is just incredible and fantastic. All the resources and the toolkits you have out there. Just a shout out to every one of you. I'm just wrapping my head around all the good resources out there. And I think that kind of empowerment to people like us is just amazing and incredible. And I'm just taking all in, and I'm actually planning at reaching out to ISIN. That's part of my work experience. I'm currently taking a course on community development. So
Amazing.
For me, it's more like enjoying the resources and just preparing for ultimately going to the theater and getting started. So in my map of networks to reach out to, as part of my experience, is to volunteer for ISIN.
Oh,
and
nice.
and just a quick background on what we do, what I do, and why
Sure.
I'm here in this conversation is I represent a social enterprise, one of its kind. We used to work for the EU in Afghanistan. Around 20 women-led organizations. These women were producing saffron and exporting it to Pakistan, where the EU is also funding women-led businesses in Pakistan. So after coming to Ireland, I decided to reignite that connection between EU-funded enterprises in Afghanistan and in Ireland. And what Afghan women need is more education that is enabled by technology. And I think Ireland is becoming the hub of tech innovation and education. And how could we, produce and, benefit from the surplus of capacity in Ireland? And how do we link those businesses and the demand that is growing for some of the spices that the women in Afghanistan and Pakistan produce? So I recently attended, not recently, actually back in 2023 in August, the first International Food Expo, which was supported by EU in Pakistan and facilitated and also supported by the ITC. I was there personally. We had a small booth. And there, the idea struck me: export tech and education to Afghanistan from Ireland. And what does the Irish economy need that the Afghan women and the EU-funded businesses in Afghanistan could produce? And then how do we make it so that women could generate work, fulfill their dreams? And yet, what is all this capacity in tech in Ireland?
And
what can we do with it?
Did you get
So
your,
yeah, that's me.
fund?
Sorry, I
Not
shouldn't
at
have
all.
gone into the details, but yeah, I'll be reaching out to ISIN. That's on my map.
Sure.
And thank you very much for all the excellent work that the Wheel and ISIN is doing. I'm following everything. Thank you.
Well done. Okay, brilliant, Sammy. I appreciate it. We will obviously take any help that we can get. So Sammy's obviously you've all heard it now, which is great. Is there any thoughts, questions that anybody has, very, very briefly? If I could I just give Gemma, Emma, and Siobhan just maybe 10 seconds just for next steps, just to give where to go for help and support, or anything else that has come up. Siobhan,
I can jump in there. Yeah, so as I mentioned, thanks to all the speakers, honestly, a bit like you, Sammy. I mean, I'm doing this a long time, but I'm still have pages and pages of notes jotted down. I think that is just a real indication as to how fertile this space is, and how we really need to do everything that we can to make sure that people understand how to access it and know that Gemma and Emma and everybody is there. So just with regards to the ESF Plus Social Innovation Fund that we'll be launching within Pobal, as I said already, the next steps for that are we will be opening phase 1 in late April or early May. We just have a number of things to get across the line between now and then. So yeah, it's an interesting space. So yeah, it will be an online application and taking on board absolutely everything and all the learnings that Baptiste and Freddie have. We're trying to make that process as easy and as simplified for those who are applying for it So yes, so watch this space, the Pobal website, but it will also be shared widely on social media.
Perfect stuff. Thank you so much. Emma?
Yeah, just to say, if anybody wants to find out more about Access Europe or get in touch, we're very easy to find. It's accesseurope.ie, and you can also go to wheel.ie if you're interested in the wheel more generally, because we have many programs that I wouldn't be able to talk about all here today. So yeah, definitely reach out to us if you've got any interest at all in terms of collaboration, in terms of finding out more about EU funding. We're very open to that, and just, yeah, it was great to hear about all the different initiatives, all the different programs, and all the different ideas that are happening. So thank you very much for.
Thank you. Brilliant, Emma. And Gemma?
Just to echo the same again, but I think to say to people that, you know, you are not being a burden by picking up the phone or by sending an email or asking questions, that is what we are here for. We are here to try and help. And I think the more resources and the more training and stuff that's out there. So well done to you guys on the work that you've done in this space as well, because anything that makes this a little bit easier is going to get that money to the people that need it and deserve it most. And we're excited to be part of that.
Brilliant. Really appreciate it. So Freddie, any last thoughts? Anything that you want to leave people with?
Yeah. So thank you for your brilliant presentation. Really, Ireland is an example for all the EU countries. So the next step will be the organization of the final conference of the project in Brussels. That will take place in the 16th of April. We will have Emma as a speaker. Unfortunately, we don't have the spaces available, but you will be able to have the report, I'm sure. And with the work with the EU is to work on the follow-up project of the help desk, and the principal objectives is to have more funding for some initiatives like you have in Ireland. So like national contact points, Access Europe, etc. So we will update you about this, and I wish you a great day and thank you for your work.
Well done, brilliant. And finally, Baptiste, any final thoughts or words that you'd like to have?
I have almost nothing to add. Thank you very much to everyone. I was really thrilled and inspired by all the presentations. Thank you very much. It's true that Ireland is shining by the great dynamic that we are seeing here, and it has been shown during this morning. And yeah, so the national perspectives of a follow-up project of the helpdesk has already been mentioned. We are open for any feedbacks, any suggestions about it. Don't hesitate. And as I said in the end of my presentation, ENSIE's role is also to make Ireland as close as possible to Brussels. So if you don't want to take the train, but you want to ask a question or to do a remark to any policymakers at Brussels, just don't hesitate. Don't hesitate to ask me to do so. I would be so happy.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Obviously, we're delighted to have been a part of the project for the previous couple of years. Obviously, it's been an incredible help. We are the contact point for the European Network for Social Integrated Enterprises in Ireland, have been for 8 years. And I think without that connection and the European funding, Eisen probably wouldn't be in its position as it is today. So without further ado, thank you so much for everybody for joining us. You can reach out to EU Funds for social.eu. You can contact anybody here through their own contact points to the presentations. We'll make them available on our website. This will be on YouTube and anybody else can access it there. So from us for now, thank you so much for joining us, and really appreciate your help and support, and looking forward to all the European projects that are going to happen now as a result. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.